welcome back. If you're craving pure VR gunplay, you're in the right place. Today we're counting down the top 10 VR shooting games, from tactical squad fights to intense survival firefights and non-stop multiplayer chaos. These picks are all about tight weapon handling, fast reloads, and that heart-racing moment when one clean shot changes everything. Stick to the end for the number one game because it sets the bar for VR shooters. Let's lock in and start the countdown. Crossfire. Sierra Squad drops you into a full-on VR firefight where every corner feels like a risk. You are moving with purpose, leaning into cover, snapping your aim, and managing reloads like it actually matters. The missions come fast and focused, with squads pushing your position, flanking routes that punish sloppy movement, and set pieces that feel made for VR. The gun handling is the star. Tight trigger response, satisfying recoil, and that pressure when your mag runs dry at the worst moment. Play solo for a clean action run, or jump in co-op and coordinate like a real team. Call targets, watch angles, and revive under fire. It is not a slow sim. It is arcade intensity done right. Crossfire. Sierra Squad is the kind of shooter that makes you stand up, lock in, and forget you are in your room. Tracked Shoot to Survive is built for pure VR shooting pressure. No long setup, just you, your weapon, and enemies closing in. The moment it starts, you are tracking targets fast, snapping your aim, and recentering your view like you are in a real training run. Every second is about control, keeping your shots clean, managing reload timing, and not letting the chaos break your rhythm. The arenas push constant movement and quick decision-making, so it feels more like an intense survival drill than a casual match. If you want a shooter that is simple to jump into but demands focus to master, Track Shoot to Survive delivers that tight, addictive, one-more-run energy. Zero Caliber 2 is the kind of VR shooter that feels like a full-action movie campaign, but you are the one doing the work. You are clearing rooms, checking corners, reloading under pressure, and swapping weapons on the fly as enemies push your position. The gunplay is the main attraction, with satisfying handling, punchy feedback, and that constant stay-sharp rhythm where one mistake costs you. The missions keep the pace moving, mixing tight indoor fights with open firefights, and the variety of weapons lets you build your own style, fast and aggressive, or slow and tactical. Best of all, it shines in co-op, where calling targets, covering angles, and reviving your teammate turns every run into a real squad moment. Zero Caliber 2 is straightforward, intense, and seriously fun when you want non-stop VR gun action. Into the Radius VR is not just a shooter. It is a survival test where every bullet feels expensive and every step feels risky. You are moving through a haunting, broken world with a weapon in your hands and tension in your chest, checking corners, scanning the fog, and listening for anything that should not be there. The gun handling is incredibly hands-on, loading magazines, chambering rounds, cleaning your gear, and fixing mistakes under pressure, which makes every firefight feel earned. And when the shooting starts, it is not loud arcade chaos. It is slow, careful, and brutal, because enemies hit hard and supplies run out fast. You are constantly deciding, do you push deeper for better loot, or do you turn back before the world closes in on you? If you want a VR shooter with real atmosphere, real stakes, and that unforgettable I barely made it out feeling, Into the Radius VR is a must-play. Contractors Showdown is VR Battle Royale gunplay turned up to maximum intensity, where every drop feels like a decision, and every firefight can end you in seconds. You spawn in, gear up fast, and immediately you are scanning rooftops, watching ridgelines, and listening for footsteps because sound is basically your radar in VR. The shooting feels snappy and aggressive, with quick reloads, tight aiming, and that moment-to-moment panic when you are trying to plate up, swap mags, and keep your barrel on target at the same time. What makes it special is how physical everything feels. Peeking from cover, leaning into angles, tossing equipment, and moving through buildings like you are actually there, not just pressing keys. The pace shifts constantly. 1 minute, you are looting in silence. The next, you are in a messy, close-range fight where positioning matters more than perfect aim. And when the zone starts closing, it forces action, pulling squads into final circles that feel like pure adrenaline. If you love competitive shooters, Contractors Showdown gives you that one more match energy, but with real VR presence. You win by staying calm, moving smart, and hitting clean shots when it counts. Ghosts of Tabor is VR extraction shooting at its most stressful and addictive, because every raid feels like you are risking something real. You load in, and the first thing you feel is silence, the kind that makes you check your corners twice, because one shot you never saw coming can erase everything you just found. The gunplay is hardcore in the best way. You are managing mags, grabbing gear with your hands, aiming under pressure, and making split-second choices like, do I push that sound, or do I stay hidden and leave with loot? It is not about being the loudest player. It is about being the smartest. You can win a fight with good positioning, patience, and a single clean shot, and that makes every encounter feel intense. What really hooks you is the loot loop. You open a crate, find something valuable, and suddenly your whole mood changes, because now the mission is not to fight, it is to survive and extract. Every footstep becomes a threat, every doorway becomes a gamble, and even a simple reload feels dramatic when you know another player might be watching. If you want a VR shooter that rewards strategy, nerves, and discipline, Ghosts of Tabor delivers that. My hands are shaking, but I made it out feeling better than almost anything else. Onward is the VR shooter that makes you slow down and think, because it plays like a real tactical operation instead of an arcade sprint. The moment a round starts, you are checking angles, using cover properly, and communicating, because one clean shot can end the fight instantly. Gun handling feels grounded and deliberate, and firefights are tense in that way, where you are holding your aim steady, waiting for movement, and trying not to panic when bullets start snapping past you. What really sells it is teamwork. Calling out positions, watching a hallway, pushing together, and coordinating a flank turns every match into a mini-mission. There is no flashy chaos, just pressure, strategy, and the satisfaction of winning with smart positioning. If you want a VR shooter where patience, communication, and precision matter more than speed, Onward is one of the best choices you can load up. Breachers is the VR tactical shooter that feels like a high-stakes raid every single round. You are not just running and shooting, you are planning, listening, and reacting, because sound and timing matter as much as aim. The moment you step into a building, you are checking corners, watching doorways, and reading the map like it is a real operation. The gunplay is fast and clean, with quick reloads and tight handling, but the real magic is the tools. You are using gadgets to open angles, clear rooms, and force enemies out of positions they want to hold. And when you breach, it actually feels physical, leaning in, pushing forward, and committing to the fight. Every round becomes a mind game. Do you rush early and surprise them, or play slow and wait for the mistake? In VR, those close-range fights are intense because you are peeking with your body, not a button, and every small movement can give you away. If you want a competitive shooter that rewards teamwork, smart pushes, and clutch aim, Breachers delivers that just one more match energy like crazy. Pavlov is the classic VR shooter that still hits because it keeps the gunplay simple, fast, and ridiculously fun. The second the match starts, you are snapping to targets, reloading on instinct, and moving through corridors like you actually have to survive the next corner. The weapons feel responsive, and the pacing is pure multiplayer chaos in the best way. Quick rounds, constant action, and those moments where you clutch a fight because your reload was clean and your aim stayed calm. What really keeps it alive is variety. You can jump into different modes, different maps, and a huge range of community content, so it never feels like the same match twice. And in VR, the little things matter. Leaning to peek, aiming down sights naturally, and reacting with your hands instead of buttons. If you want a no-nonsense VR shooter that you can boot up anytime for instant action, Pavlov is still one of the safest, most addictive picks out there. Half-Life Alyx is still the VR shooter that feels like a full AAA world built around your hands, not just a game that happens to work in VR. From the first minutes, everything pulls you in, the scale of the environments, the detail in every room, and the way you interact with objects like you are actually there. The combat is not non-stop chaos. It is controlled, tense, and smart. You are using cover, timing your shots, and managing ammo carefully, because the game makes every encounter feel meaningful. Reloading is clean and satisfying, and grabbing magazines, snapping them in, and chambering rounds becomes second nature. And then you have the gravity gloves, which turn looting into its own kind of skill, flicking items into your hand mid-fight, catching them, and instantly getting back on target. The enemies keep pressure high without feeling unfair, forcing you to move, reposition, and think, not just spray bullets. And the atmosphere is unreal. Dark tunnels, abandoned apartments, and those quiet seconds before a fight, where you can hear something moving and you do not know where it is. If you want a VR shooter that feels polished, cinematic, and completely immersive, Half-Life Alyx is the benchmark. Even years later, it still sets the standard for what VR combat and world design should feel like.